So we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna start tearing down the Q300L and we're gonna build into the Fantex P300. This is not gonna be so much of like a tutorial, but it's still gonna be kind of like a guide almost. But yeah, this is the new case and I'm looking forward to building in it. So let's get right into this. Alright, and so basically with all that out of the way, we're just going to go ahead and take the PC apart and then we're going to lay it out on the table, explain all the components, and then we're just going to build it into this new case. Let's go. Alright, so the full teardown is basically done. That took way longer than I really anticipated, and it's because, well, this was kind of difficult to take off. The cooler already had like pre-applied thermal paste when it came with it, right? So the thermal paste kind of like melted because, you know, heat, and so like paste, like glue, it kind of just sticks onto there. And like when you're taking this off, you got to be very careful because there's times where like if you just go up instead of like wiggling it out, you can rip the processor out, and you don't want to do that. So let's just go over the parts real quick. We got some RAM right here. This is 16 gigs of 3200 megahertz RAM. It's a Corsair Vengeance, you know, LPX. You can get it on Amazon. I have it paired with this other 16 gig kit, which was in my pre-built. This is a 2666 megahertz. So I put those all four into here. So quad channel memory, right? Just stick it in like that, stick in the other pair like that. I have 32 gigs of RAM total. However, they're not the same speed, so I couldn't really take advantage of speeds, but nonetheless. One thing about this motherboard, it's a very good motherboard. Honestly, I think it cost me like 50 bucks. Thing about it is that there's no built-in Wi-Fi, so you gotta get yourself one of these. These are, this is a PCIe adapter for a Wi-Fi card. Cool thing about these compared to like USB sticks, which is the USB stick and then the antenna. So the Wi-Fi card's like right there. So when a new one comes out, you can just take this one out, swap it out, and I think this also has Bluetooth in it, so you can swap that out as well. I'm not sure if these have to be on for this to work. I'll try taking them off and see if it still works. Next up, the graphics card, the main guy in this entire build. This is a 1660 Ti. It's from MSI. It's their Gaming X. It's RGB. That's like the really cool thing about it. I think this retails for like $300 something, $400 sometimes. It's really inflated right now because of the new graphics cards that came out from NVIDIA, like the 3000 series and like the 6800 and the 6900 from AMD. That's because they're all out of stock because everyone bought them out. These become like a lot more expensive. So I went on OfferUp and I actually bought this from somebody. So honestly, the graphics card market on like secondhand stuff like OfferUp and eBay isn't that bad. You just gotta be careful and, you know, be smart about it. I got this for 225 bucks, so I kind of saved $100 full price almost. So yeah, it's a very good card. It was in very good condition. The guy I bought it from, he was cool. I had a 2060 before I got this one because there's no graphics card. I came from a 580 with the pre-built. 2060 broke, so I was without a graphics card for a bit. So I had to go back to the old PC, the pre-built, and then I landed myself one of these. So yeah, very nifty stuff. The other star is the Ryzen 7, which is in the motherboard currently right now. It's the 2700X, 8 cores, 16 threads. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wipe this down because I have to put new thermal paste, and we're gonna get started with the other build. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, I have a 500 gigabyte SATA SSD. This is from Western Digital. One thing about SSDs is that you can get these for like 20 bucks. It'll be like 128 gigs. And believe me, it's worth it. Because all you gotta do is install one of these into your system and like put Windows on it. Your start time is like cut in half. It's a really good upgrade. Again, like close to 20 bucks for 128 gigs. That's more than enough storage for Windows. I got myself a 500 gig because I haven't gotten myself a hard drive. I do have this other hard drive right here, like this little one, but this came from like an old laptop that I took it out of. So it's really just for storage. It's a really slow hard drive. So most people use hard drives. Hard drives aren't that bad because, you know, they're cheap, good storage. But again, you want to see a noticeable difference in startup time and certain speeds, get yourself an SSD. It's totally worth it. All right, so we're just gonna get to cleaning here because we got a lot of stuff on here. Oh, I'm gonna have to put this back in. This is the rear exhaust fan that came with the Cooler Master. As you can see, the fins on this thing are, yeah, they don't suck out that much air. There's still some dust buildup on it. Like, it's obviously gonna suck air, but just not very efficiently. Here are the old fans I had. I wouldn't say these were that bad, and I mean, they were 15 bucks for a pack of 3, but they weren't that great. I bought some new ones. They're RGB. They're from the same brand. They have like a remote control to control the lighting and I think the speed, so that's pretty nice. And I think I could also just turn them off if I wanted. I'm just gonna clean everything out and I'll see you in a bit. All right, so the way things usually work out here is, well, you have your motherboard, you take it out of your motherboard box, and you can actually just put like the motherboard on the motherboard box itself, and this pretty much becomes your test bench. This is where you build most of the the main components of the PC, which is the processor with the cooler onto it, the RAM. If you have an M.2 SSD, you put storage basically right there. All right, so we're gonna get started. So this is an AMD motherboard. It's from Gigabyte. It's the B450M, so it supports the AM4 socket. And so we have our Ryzen 7 2700X. This is the processor that we had in our pre-built, and this is the processor that we're gonna bring on over to our main PC build. And then it comes with the Wraith cooler. It's got RGB, and if your motherboard supports it, you can actually customize it in software, I believe. So that's the cooler. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna lift up this bracket right here, and then you're gonna make sure you're gonna line up an arrow on the processor and an arrow that is at the top over here. And then you're just gonna simply, like, very carefully place the processor into the socket, and then you just lock this back into place, and just like that you have a processor in. You gotta be very careful because the processor is like a pretty pricey part of the computer. You can ruin the processor, you gotta get a new one. Alright, so next you're gonna want to put in RAM. So since we have 32 gigs of RAM, I'm gonna go ahead and use all 4 sticks just cause I can. You wanna open up all of these sockets here, and you want to take your sticks of RAM. You want to make sure they're always offset, and especially with Ryzen, you want to make sure you have a dual channel to take full advantage of using dual channel memory. So if you want 8 gigs of RAM, get 2 sticks of 4 gigabytes, so you have 8 gigs running in dual channel. Now what I'm doing is 2 sticks of 8 to have 16, but then I have another 2 sticks of 16, so 32 total. This is like the good pair to go with. This is like the most well-known, I'd say. There's other brands too, but you can look into that yourself. Anyways, so we're gonna put these 2 in the black, and you wanna make sure that you have these lined up properly as well. There's gold contacts that connect onto that. So let me flip the motherboard box. All right, so we're gonna put this, it's the other way. Okay, just put it right there. You make sure these 2 contacts are open, and then you just simply press down until you hear a click on both sides to make sure. All right, so we're good. Perfect. So we can stop right there, and we have 16 gigs of RAM, both clocked at 3200 megahertz, but I'm gonna put the other sticks in there just because, and I'll be using those for B-roll. All right, so the next step is very simple. So if you have an AMD processor and like you got it new, you most likely have the Wraith cooler that comes with it. So the Wraith cooler will have like pre-applied thermal paste. It'll be in like a square, so like perfectly sized for the processor itself. But since I'm doing this again, I have to wipe it off because it's better not to keep it on there. So I'm gonna do a new thermal application. So if you're doing that as well, you know, you just buy thermal paste. Most thermal paste will do just fine. Whatever's the best seller on Amazon is most likely fine. If you're doing thermal paste like this, instead of like a thermal pad like it usually comes stock, you wanna put a little bit, not too much, because too much is too much. Most people do like an X, just a little dot, or like a little strip. I'm gonna do like a little dot slash kind of strip kind of thing. I think some people do like a cross, but I'm just gonna do a dot. Depending on what cooler you have, the way you put it on might be different, but with this one, you just kind of like put it over, and there's like this lock mechanism AM4 processors. And you want to put this in a way that obviously works with the way that it's laid out, but also for the CPU fan to be plugged into the CPU fan header. So I think we're gonna go ahead and just plug it in now. There we go. So we have our cooler on, we have our RAM on. You're gonna have this cable right here, which again, you either want to like tie it up or you want to like kind of loop it somehow. I usually just leave it like that because it's never really gonna be seen and it doesn't really matter. That's it for the motherboard pretty much. If you have an M.2 SSD, you just screw it on, but I don't have that, so I won't be showing that in this video. All right, so the next big step that comes after making your motherboard ready with the RAM and the processor and the cooler is your case. So you're gonna go over here, grab your case, put it on the table. What you wanna do is take off this side panel glass because that's where you gotta put the parts in. So we're just gonna put this on its side actually. The plastic wrap that comes with your case, you don't want to take it off until after you're done because it can get scratched while you're building. The side panel comes off pretty smoothly actually. Yeah. All right, cool. So this is my first time working with tempered glass. I'm just trying to be careful. Don't want to damage it. Some companies might give you like not very good tempered glass, and like that can be damaged like in shipping, and sometimes you just have like a whole lot of tempered glass just all over the place, and you don't want to have that. It's a bad time. I think yeah, there's like a little box over here in the power supply hard drive shroud area. So let me see if I can try to get that out, because I think that might have like our screws and stuff that we're gonna use. I know. I have to take off this front mesh. Oh, okay, that wasn't so hard. Very cool. So this is the front mesh. It's pretty nice. So we have our hard drive cage right here, and it has our box on it. Let me just pull that out. All right, cool. So this is kind of tight. Come on. There we go. Sick. All right, so we have our accessory box that comes with the case, and in this, there isn't that much I can already hear. There's some zip ties for cable management, and I guess these are the screws that we're going to be working with. And now comes inserting the motherboard. All right, so we've re-angled the camera, and we also redid the fan cable because it was too far away from where my motherboard would reach it. So you can see the cable like right here. So we're just going to take our motherboard again, and we're just going to line it up with the I/O shield and with the standoffs. And then we're just going to plug in that fan cable. So I believe this is a micro ATX motherboard, which means it's small because like the standoffs reach all the way out here for ATX motherboards. I think this fits ATX. I might be wrong about that, but yeah, my motherboard just fits this size, but the motherboard can accommodate for bigger. Yeah, ATX. I think that's what it said right there. All right, so we have our motherboard into the I/O shield and onto the standoffs. Perfect. Now all we got to do is plug in this the system fan, the case fan. We're just gonna plug it in right here. This is a very difficult video to make since it's just me, my cameras, and by cameras I mean just two phones, and you know, one of them has a camera, one of them for audio. I have it plugged into a lav mic. So I'm hoping that's plugged in well enough for the fan to actually work. And so we have all that plugged in. Now we gotta take out these standoff screws and just screw in the motherboard into the standoffs. So I'm just gonna make a quick cut here so you don't have to watch me screw everything. So yeah. All right, so thankfully it was only 4 motherboard screws. All right, so we have all of our front I/O connected. Everything's plugged into the right place. And so next what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our case fans and we're gonna put them over here on the front. After that, we're just gonna go ahead and do our power supply, our storage, and then finally the graphics card. But before we get right into that, let's just show off the power supply real quick. So this is a 500 watt Thermaltake power supply, and this is what it looks like. Again, 500 watts, and I believe it's 80 plus silver. This guy went for like 48 bucks on Amazon, maybe like 49, so roughly $50 on Amazon. Pretty good power supply. Power supply is gonna go down here. If I had a hard drive, it would go into like this hard drive cage. There's enough space for 2. We have an SSD tray here, so I probably won't be able to put in my hard drive, my itty bitty one from that old laptop that I used to have. So, I mean, I might be able to fit into the cage or just leave it dangling, I don't know, I'm not sure. Now finally comes the moment where we assemble the PC itself. So we take the fans, we screw them into the front as well as the top. So we have 3 intakes and 1 exhaust. And after that's done, we insert the power supply and plug its cables into the motherboard. Do a little bit of some cable management so that it's still neat while we're building and doing the rest of the cables. After that, we plug in our SATA SSD into the SSD tray and attach that to the case, as well as the other hard drive we have, along with the fan hub so we can control it with the fan hub controller. After all that is done, plug in our Wi-Fi card and our graphics card, make sure those are plugged into the power supply. We do some more cable management so that it's all nice and neat. And finally, the PC is now completed. All right, so now for the moment we've all been waiting for. I've been doing this all day. I've been recording the video the entire day, and it's very difficult having to do all this by myself, you know. We're finally done. The PC is built. I haven't taken off the protective plastic yet, just to make sure, like, you gotta make sure it turns on, whatever. We don't want to peel that off just yet. And so now for the moment of truth, let me make sure this power supply is switched on because Literally every PC build video always has the people turn on the computer and it's just like, why isn't it turning on? And it's just like, oh, the power supply's not on. But power supply's on, it's plugged into the wall. System is fully built. Already, this case looks way better than the Q300L. So, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's awesome, that's sick. Then we have the little light strip down here next to the fan text. I read in the manual that this is RGB or something. Like, these are some really bright RGB fans. That's sick. Okay, so we have the remote control. Let's see what I can do with it. I should be able to like control the colors and like speeds and the effects and brightness. So I can turn them off. There we go. Yeah, this exhaust fan's actually exhausting air. The other fan on the Q300L wasn't that great. And there's obviously colors. Let's go for a white. Okay, so there's just kind of like, yeah, the colors are a little weird, but still good stuff. So that's labeled as red on the remote, but that seems to be like the pink/purple. I don't know, man. It still looks really good. I love this. So we have like this like spirally chroma wave kind of thing. That looks really nice. Yeah, these are some nice effects. I don't know how many there are. Like, I just ordered this because they were RGB and like they were a good price. I think it was $30. And there's like the remote. There's a hub if I want to get another set of 3. I can still plug them into that same hub and have a hub to spare. Then with the single colors, how many effects are there? There's so many. That's still really nice. That's sick. Okay, I'm gonna leave the description box below because these are some nice fans. And I'm super satisfied with this. Like, this is awesome. This is a really nice case. There's so many, like, just spending the extra $20 for things like PCIe brackets that you can always screw back on if you change your mind or if you just get a new board or whatever. You get an included fan that actually does its job of exhausting air. Tempered glass, airflow in the front, pretty decent I/O on the top. So that's what it looks like from the front. You have like more ventilation over here and down here. There's 2 hard drive cages. The power supply and the hard drives are like hidden and stuff if you're into that. So yeah, for $60, this is really good. I'm gonna be leaving the descriptions for the fans, the case. I'm gonna have some fun with my PC. I'm gonna edit this video. Very satisfied with how this came out. Well, that's out of the way. I'll leave everything in the description again down below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and check out the rest of the channel. Check out my school channel. I'll leave that in the description below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.